How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. So, today's video is late, and I mean extremely late. It was actually supposed to come out like a couple days after New Year's, and well, here we are, at least while I'm recording this. It's currently 11 days later after I was supposed to put it up, so yeah, sorry about that. Been having a lot of real life stuff come up, and also I've been kind of deathly sick for the last 2 weeks, so today's the first day I was actually able to breathe through my mouth properly. In other news, I actually didn't expect my last video to do as well as it did, so thank you guys so much for that. Like, I really appreciate it. You have no idea how much that means to me. So I guess it's in the future, at least. At some point, we'll have to go and look at some other stuff as well. Also, in the future, I'm definitely going to be working in putting together essentially higher quality content with, you know, at least at a more frequent schedule, because this is kind of ridiculous. It's been over a month since my last post. Again, sorry about that. It's my bad. But anyway, let's get on with it, shall we? So today, we're back into some familiar territory with the bane of the Flood's existence, the shotgun from Halo Combat Evolved. So I bet you guys are wondering why I didn't give the shotgun a designation like the M90. Well, the reason for that is there's actually a bit of a discrepancy with what shotgun is actually used in the game. In classic Halo CE, the Master Chief is seen wielding an M90 shotgun, whereas in the Anniversary Edition, he's actually carrying the M45 E shotgun. However, the good news is, according to canon, the differences between these two shotguns are purely cosmetic, and both shotguns function exactly the same. So, with that said, today will almost be a bit of a double-header episode where we'll be covering the history of both the M90 and M45E shotgun. First up, we have the M45E. The M45 series is a series of high-powered pump-action shotguns designed and produced by Ms. Mariah Armory. Exactly what year the shotgun was produced is unknown, however we do know that they have been issued to the UNSC Marine Corps for over 100 years. At some point, the M45E was developed as a variant to the M45, which essentially allowed the mag tube to take 6 more rounds than the conventional M45. On a side note, we also know that some M45s were actually able to accept other gauges of shot shell. Alright, moving on to the M90 CAWS. This is a sub-series of shotguns to the larger DTM series of shotguns employed by many law enforcement agencies, as well as being the standard shotgun for the UNSC. These shotguns are produced by, get this, Weapon System Technologies, which can I just say is so refreshing hearing that Ms. Raya doesn't make every single firearm in the Halo franchise. The M90 has been in service to the UNSC for over 27 years and comes in a range of variants. However, the M90 in Combat Evolved was essentially a copy of the earlier M45E produced by Ms. Raya, as I said earlier. I can only assume that the UNSC decided to go with the M90 due to either having lower production costs or a quicker manufacturing time. So now that the quick history lesson is over, it's now time to look at the specs of these shotguns and see if they would actually make a worthy addition to our modern militaries. You know, as we do. As I said before, both the M45E and M90 shotguns are the same functionally. So I'm going to essentially read the specs for the M90 as if they were the same shotgun, and only interject if the M45E has a slightly different cannon spec. The M90 shotgun is a pump-action tactical shotgun chambered in the 8-gauge Soulcraft Magnum and is able to accept 12 shells in a dual tubular magazine, which essentially means that the shells are stored in an internal magazine that isn't able to be detached. This only slightly differs from the M45E system, which accepts 12 M296 8-gauge shells rather than the 8-gauge Soulcraft. And speaking of which, the M296 and 8-gauge Soulcraft are presumed to be similar, if not exactly the same round functionally. So, you know, there's that. Okay, so when it comes to the projectile specs and length of this round, there's also a bit of a discrepancy. You know, as kind of been the theme of this whole video. Bungie.net states that the M90A, which fires the 8-gauge Soulcraft, fires 8-gauge quad-aught buck in a 3.75-inch shell. However, in game details, i.e. the boxes that hold the ammunition in Halo 2 and Combat Evolved, state that they fire an 8-gauge double-aught buck in a 3.5-inch shell. This in layman's terms means that within this one shell, 15 8.4mm pellets are fired from one shot shell that is 3.5 inches or 8.89 centimeters long. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to go with the in-game version of the shells, due to the possibility of mistakes or miscommunication with that post, but also mainly because the games are the #1 canon here. A post really isn't going to matter all that much when it comes to overall game canon. And again, we'll talk more on that later. The M90 has a maximum effective range of about 40 to 100 meters depending on the variant, and has a muzzle velocity of about 400 meters per second, giving this weapon actually similar specifications to modern shotguns, you know, if we're not talking about the massively oversized ammunition. Lastly, the M90 has an overall length of 118.3 centimeters or 3.8 feet, making this gun considerably longer compared to many shotguns of today. But again, more on that later. So, for this next part, we're once again going to look at the, specs of how everything works and would it be a worthy addition and all that stuff, and basically make ourselves a comparison. But today, I thought we'd do something a bit different. Today, we're going to be doing a live demonstration. A good friend of mine was gracious enough to help me out with today's video. I'd like you guys all to meet Monty. Monty's here with his M45 E shotgun chambered in 8-gauge M296. And for relevant comparison, I'm here with my H&R Partner Tactical Pump Shotgun. Real quick, let's get into some detail about this gun before we get any further. Harrington & Richardson is a subsidiary of Remington Outdoor Company. Remington is actually responsible for many iconic firearms seeing use in both military and civilian applications. Notable ones being the United States military's M24 or Remington Model 700, or the US military's M870 or Remington 870, the issued shotgun for both the US Coast Guard and Air Force. By extension, the H&R Partner is noted for being extremely similar shotgun to the likes of the M870, essentially being the same shotgun produced by different branches of the same company. As a matter of fact, the H&R Partner is actually able to accept most attachments for the Remington 870. And considering the fact that the M870 is a pump-action shotgun rather than the US Army and Marine Corps' M1014 or Beretta M4, which is a semi-automatic, the M870 would be a more comparable piece than the alternative. With all that out of the way, let's get to the fun stuff. So let's first talk about the rounds. This is a 12-gauge double-aught buck 3-inch Magnum shell, the standard round for any modern tactical shotgun. This shell is about half an inch smaller, or 12.7 millimeters smaller, than its 8-gauge counterpart. It's also about 0.1 inches or 2.7 millimeters wider than its modern counterpart. These shells are also significantly heavier, weighing around 2.4 ounces or 68 grams per shell, versus the 12-gauge shell weighing about 1.8 ounces or 52.5 grams. Which in all honesty doesn't seem that much, but when you're carrying multiple shells, that weight tends to add up very quickly. It should also be noted in Halo canon, there's plenty of accounts saying that the M296 is able to suppress its recoil very well. However, I do think it's safe to say that it will have a noticeable amount more recoil than its 12-gauge counterpart. Next, how's about we look at the actual size of the firearms themselves? Our M45 E here, using canon specs from the M90, which, again, almost the exact same shotgun, is about 3'10" or 118 centimeters. Compare that to our modern shotgun measuring in at 3 foot or 91 centimeters fully collapsed, or 3'3" or 100 centimeters at full extension. So why is this important, you may ask? Well, when it comes to shotguns, CQC is the name of the game. Simply put, longer shotguns just don't bode as well in CQC situations. Basically, shorter weapons work better in these environments due to their ability to turn corners quicker and lower risk of hitting them on obstacles in close quarter combat. Alrighty, now let's get to the fun part. Monty, you ready to shoot off some shells? Remember kids, always wear your eye and ear protection when at the shooting range and practice safe firearm handling. So, this test was essentially to show the similarity between these two rounds. Both rounds use the same projectiles and the same amount of them. The biggest difference being the spread of shot due to our modern shotgun's 12-gauge full choke versus the M45E's 8-gauge full choke. Simply put, the 8-gauge barrel is wider and has a much wider pattern versus our 12 gauges spread, pretty much meaning that the 8-gauge is able to hit more targets or more of that target at once. So, would the M90 be a worthy addition to our modern arsenal? I'm sure you already know the answer to this. No. Again, no it is not. But why? I hear both of you yelling at me. Well, hold your fucking horses, we're gonna get into that. Alright, first let's talk the ammunition. Now I already know that I kinda went into detail about the 8-gauge. It's bigger, it's heavier, it's got more recoil than the 12-gauge. But I'd also like to point out the cost of making 8-gauge rounds. So, just for the record, the 8-gauge is a dead round currently. Basically, no modern ammunition manufacturers produce an 8-gauge round, especially with buckshot. In fact, the only 8-gauge shells that I was actually able to find on the internet were blank rounds, which surprisingly were used for clearing soot out of fire kilns. You know, the more you bro. In the Halo universe, the company Soulcraft actually revived this outdated round and started producing it for the military's functions. Why, God knows why, but whatever. To each their own, right? However, with all that said, 8-gauge, just due to its size and amount of powder, is just going to be much more expensive than the smaller 12-gauge rounds. And aside from the shot spread, you're really not gaining much with this upgrade. Not only are the shells heavier and more bulky, but also the muzzle velocity's really not notably that much higher. And in all honesty, the shot spread can just be fixed with putting in a wider choke on the 12-gauge. As said before, the 8-gauge Soulcraft's muzzle velocity is about 400 meters per second, or, for us Americans, 1,300 feet per second. My modern 12-gauge, using the same amount and size of pellets, fires at 368 meters per second, or 1210 feet per second. Needless to say, that's damn near the same speed. You're just not getting enough bang for your buck. Absolutely pun intended. I tried very hard for that, guys. I expect at least nothing, actually. I don't expect anything from you. I don't know what I'm saying. Let's keep moving on with the video. Another thing being the length of the shotgun. Now, I know I already kind of covered this one, but like I said before, shorter shotguns tend to bode better with CQC situations, and like I said, the M45 and M90 shotguns are just simply longer than our modern shotguns. And one thing I actually neglected to mention was the fact that the M90 and M45 series are top-loaded shotguns. Why does that matter, you may ask? Well, essentially, a top-loaded shotgun is actually more convenient than a standard bottom-loading one, effectively removing a step and flipping over the shotgun to load the remaining rounds. So, that's great, right? Chalk that up as a point to the M90, am I right? Well, not exactly. There is a bit of an issue with that. Compared to a modern top-loading shotgun, the RMB-93, the M90 doesn't actually have this hatch covering the loading mechanisms, which essentially prevent debris and other crap from getting inside of the loading mechanisms and basically jamming it up. And then it also should be noticed that actually having to pull the hatch up and, move it out of the way, essentially nullifies the advantage of having a top-loading shotgun as, opposed to just flipping over the shotgun and loading the rounds in normally. So, that's a bit of a catch-22 there, so I'll leave that up to you guys' interpretations. Lastly, we have, once again, the impossible magazine capacity. I don't understand what it was specifically about Halo Combat Evolved that just had no goddamn idea about how many rounds you can fit into these goddamn guns. I mean, I know I already covered this with the M45 E assault rifle, but seriously, 12 rounds in a shotgun like this, there's no way that's possible. But I guess we'll talk about it again. So, my H&R partner Tactical is able to carry 6 rounds, 5 in the mag tube, 1 in the chamber. Really, that's about what most shotguns should carry, and especially for an 8-gauge, you would essentially have to have this thing be a little bit over 3'2" in just the mag tube to fit 11 3.5-inch rounds. And then obviously you'd have 1 in the chamber. Again, it's just simply too goddamn big, and it doesn't make any fucking sense about how this works. So, I'm gonna leave that one to rest. This will eventually get better once we start talking like Halo 2 and Halo 3 guns, but I digress. Once again, can I get an F in the comments, my boys? An F in the comments.
Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. So, obviously we tried something new today. I'd like to thank my friend Monty for coming out here and helping me. Yeah, this one was actually it's just a blast to make this one. I mean, I've always kind of wanted to do a live demonstration with this, but I guess one way or another, like, comment, subscribe, and you'll probably end up seeing more of my buddy here. And we'll see you guys next time.
Just remember that.
Just say that.
Yeah.
Short guns good, because turn quarters good, and no hit things.
Perfect. Highbrow, high quality YouTube videos.
I'm keeping it.
Yeah.